Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. Several persons are feared dead in protests across Cameroon after the Constitutional Council declared Paul Biya the winner of the October 12 presidential election with 53.66% of the votes. The protest, led by civilians, erupted in several cities including Duala, Garoua and Yaoundé, with demonstrators barricading roads, burning tires and clashing with security forces who responded with live bullets, tear gas and water cannons. This is our lone major story tonight. The news in full in a jiffy. Once more, thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe Television. This is a 6 p.m. edition of the news. For presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. We begin this newscast to tell you that President Paul Biya has been declared winner of the October 12 presidential elections by the Constitutional Council. President Paul Biya was able to get 53.66% of the votes. That is the representative of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement (CPDM) party. Meanwhile, Issa Chima Bakari of the Cameroon National Salvation Front party got 35.9% of the votes. Third came as that of Cabrali B of the Cameroon Party for National Reconciliation, who was able to secure 3.42% of votes, and Beluba Maigari of the UNDP party got 2.45% of votes. Tomaino Emin Patricia Dandoya of the UDC party, and also the lone female candidate of the 2025 presidential elections, got a total of 1.66%, and followed by O.C. Joshua of the SDF, who had 1.21% of votes. Ateki Kakson of PAL Party was able to secure 0.8% of the votes. Meantime, EOD, the youngest candidate, EOD Hiram Samuel of the FDC Party, got 0.41% of votes, and closely followed by Buga Hagbejak of the MCNC Party with 0.30%, and Kwemo Pierre UMS of UMS Party, of course, who was able to obtain 0.28% of votes, followed closely by Muna Akere Tambeng of Univer Party, who got 0.2% of votes. And shortly after these results were declared, the President of the Republic, President Paul Biya, gave his first message on his social media account, where he says, "At this point in time, when the sovereign people have once again placed their trust in me for a new term of office, my first thoughts are with all those who have, as a result of the post-election violence, unnecessarily lost their lives, as well as with their families. I fathom the width of the responsibility that has once again been entrusted to me and the great expectations of my compatriots, particularly those of the young people and women, with the presidential elections behind us." According to President Paul Biya, he says he sincerely hopes that together we resolutely undertake to build a peaceful, united and prosperous Cameroon. We really owe this to our beloved and beautiful country. As president of all Cameroonians, I would like to commend all those who took part in this electoral process that makes Cameroon a true democracy. I wish to particularly extend my sincere thanks to all the voters who chose me. And those were the words of the president shortly after he was elected president, or after he was proclaimed president by the Constitutional Council. And tonight we'll take a look at one of Africa's longest serving leaders, Paul Biya, president of Cameroon. The modern history of the Central African nation has been shaped by his 4-decade leadership. Babla Jonathan tells us more about the political trajectory of the country's president-elect.
Born on February 13, 1933, in the South Cameroonian village of Mvomeka, Paul Biya's journey to power began in the early years of independence. Educated in Yaoundé and in France, he studied law and political science before joining the civil service in the 1960s. By 1968, Biya had risen to Secretary General at the Presidency of the Republic, serving under Cameroon's first leader, Amadou Ahidjo. When Ahidjo resigned in 1982, Biya, then Prime Minister, became President, pledging unity, progress and democracy. Just 2 years later, his rule was tested by a coup attempt. Since then, Biya has maintained a firm grip on power, declared winner of a series of elections often criticized by the opposition and international observers for lacking transparency. Now in his 90s, Biya remains one of the world's longest-serving heads of state, over 4 decades in office. Supporters praise him for ensuring stability in a diverse country of more than 250 ethnic groups. Critics, however, cite growing inequality, limited political freedom, and unresolved tensions in Cameroon's Anglophone regions. He has now been declared president-elect by the Constitutional Council. He thus embarks on an 8th term in office.
Babila Jonathan reporting there. And away from that, the results of the presidential elections have been received in Buea with mixed emotions. While supporters of the regime feel it is a well-deserved victory, others think it does not reflect the will of the people. The results were published in a context marked by ghost town, that part of the country. More with our reporter in Buea, Rex Afon. We're coming to this report done by Rex Afon in Buea, where he says the results of the presidential elections have been received in Buea with mixed emotions. While supporters of the regime feel it is a well-deserved victory, others think it does not reflect the will of the people. The results were published in a context marked by ghost town. We have details with Rex Afon.
It was with mixed emotions that the population of Buea received the proclamation of the results of the presidential elections of October 12, 2025, and most of them, they watched it in their homes because the town of Buea has since morning been ghosted. For the ruling party, most of its supporters here, they have been celebrating the victory of President Paul Biya as declared by the Constitutional Council, and they say it is a well-deserved victory considering that they themselves were on the field canvassing for votes for their candidate who eventually emerged victorious in this presidential election.
The first impression, naturally, is the sentiment of joy. We stood on the side with conviction. We fought manfully for that side, and for that side to come out victorious can only but make us joyful. And the task ahead, which we know will be the commitment of our candidate, then, who is now president-elect, is to heal these divisions, focus on the pressing economic issues, and of course preserve the unity and stability of our country.
For others, they think that this proclamation of results by the Constitutional Council does not reflect the will of the people, considering the happenings in major towns and cities of the country in recent days and even on the day of the proclamation of the results of the election.
All I want to say is that the results I followed today are not a reflection of the people's will. Why do I say so? I expected to see many people jubilating today for their champion, and I did not expect to see any protests like the ones that took place almost across the nation yesterday. So I'll simply say the results, in my opinion, are not a reflection of what took place on the 12th of October.
Reporting from Buea, I am Rex Afon, Equinoxe Television.
Rex Afon reporting from Buea. And civil society and political actors are also attributing the post-electoral protests and violence to a delayed announcement of results, suggesting that the 15-day period allowed for potential rigging in favor of the incumbent president. This situation has sparked widespread criticism, with many labeling it as a shameful abuse of democracy. More with Innocent Aze.
In an advanced digital era, it took the Republic of Cameroon 15 days before its Constitutional Council proclaimed results of the October 12 presidential election. This has been qualified as shameful by members of the civil society who observe other countries announcing presidential election results few days after the polls closed.
Given the fact that we have advanced technology, I don't see how it will take up to 15 days for us to have for the Constitutional Council and elecam to give us results. Any electoral process that keeps people waiting for 15 days is an electoral process that is designed to fail. Actually shameful to the intelligence and to the intelligence of Cameroonians.
We know from the procès verbal was won elections in other countries when people cast their votes, it takes about 3-4 days, even a day and more, for election results to come out.
With the post-electoral protest and violence entering the 2025 archives, Cameroonians who think this would have been avoided attribute it to the long delay, that is, 2 weeks to announce the winner. According to the population, a long period to steal polling stations' results in favor of the incumbent president.
Electoral tension comes because of lack of accountability, because of lack of transparency in electoral issues. And I think that people, when they cast their votes, they want to protect their votes and they want to choose their leader.
This can only suggest that when people voted on the 12th and went home, the real voting started on the 13th, and in the offices and the back offices can only indicate that there have been a lot of tampering, manipulations, vote altering, and so it looked like the will of the people has actually been thwarted within these 15 days, because election rigging in Cameroon is diabolical in its nature, inescapable in its reach, and overwhelming in its dimension.
A mockery and nasty reputation of the Cameroonian democracy at the level of the international community, when nations trample on Cameroon as they target emergence through transparent democratic principles.
This election again has given democracy a very bad name, and making us look like clowns, in fact, in the face of the international community.
We need to reshape our constitution, we need to reshape our structures, we need more stronger institutions and stronger people in our country now. It is a time for Mr. Biya to form a government now that will be able to reshape the dynamics of Cameroon and better Cameroon to become an emerging nation, because we are seeing that people are not happy.
As these actors deplore the electoral maneuvers giving 92-year-old President Paul Biya another mandate, Cameroonians continue protesting against another 7 years of misery under a 43-year-old regime.
On a volé notre victoire.
Innocent as reporting there. And a wave of panic swept through Duala today as the city anxiously awaited the official results of the presidential election. From the early hours to afternoon, economic activities remained paralyzed, school empty, streets ghosted and heavily militarized. This followed a violent protest that has gripped the economic capital city since Sunday, and as a result, denizens since Sunday had to stay home for their safety. Our reporter A.C. Lucy Liengu visited some schools and popular markets and compiled this report for the 6 p.m. news.
Navigating through key neighborhoods of Duala, the empty streets reflected the tension gripping the city as the nation awaited the declaration of the October 12 presidential results. From Government Bilingual High School Aqua to Government Bilingual High School New Bell through other neighborhoods, the silence was striking. Moving to Government Bilingual High School Daido, the premises were deserted and all school gates remained firmly closed. A similar calm reigned at Government Technical Bilingual High School Aqua, where neither students nor administrators were present. The gates of the school campuses were shut and secured against any possible disturbance. Following the announcement of the date for the release of the presidential election results, economic activities have been paralyzed across Duala from the early hours of Monday, October 27, into the afternoon. Even Duala's busiest commercial spaces, such as the Central Market, popularly known as Marché Central, were all empty. Only a few pedestrians could be seen, while most traders stayed away. Fearing destruction, the market has been placed under heavy military watch. The same atmosphere was observed at the new Daido market, where some traders carried out the activities but decided to leave the market before 12 p.m.
Oui, les clients sont en train de venir. Les clients achètent. Et nous, on veut que ça continue comme ça. Il ne faut pas que demain, on nous dit qu'on ne sort pas parce que...
Donc, j'aimerais que la paix règne.
A trader adds, all she wants is peace in the country.
De ma volonté, j'aime la paix.
Fear and uncertainty continue to grow among Cameroonians in Duala as protests take a new turn with the official declaration of the October 12 presidential results.
And in the same vein, the Cameroon Bar Council and the Hotels-led movement have issued a joint statement expressing deep concern over the deteriorating human rights situation following the October 12 presidential election. Bar Council President Eric Mba condemned the illegal arrest, targeted repression, and also fatal incidents involving civilians, while the Hotels movement called for calm and demanded the release of their colleagues arrested illegally, as Siri Chakutio tells us.
The post-electoral crisis that has been rocking Cameroon since the October 12, 2025 polls are intensifying in the country. In a strong and unprecedented statement, the Cameroon Bar Association, through its president Bar Eric Mba, expresses deep concern about the security situation and the increasing number of human rights violations across the country. The Bar Association condemns the violence and destruction recorded, particularly in the city of Bafoussam, with the burning of courthouses, resulting in the loss of essential archives, including civil status registers and criminal records, and institutional damage described as very serious. In a context of mass arrests that they consider illegal and targeted, the bar recalls that the right to peaceful protest is universal. They say it is denied by several incidents deemed emblematic of the current drift towards security. They condemned the death of Zuaira, a teacher in Gaura, attributed to elements of the police forces. They also came back to the kidnapping and assassination of CPDM militant and Member of Parliament Honorable Abe Michael by armed groups in the northwest region. In the same vein, the movement OTS, which can be translated as "We Have Enjoyed Enough," calls on the authorities to release 2 trade unionist officials arrested in recent days: Roland Aswa, Deputy Secretary General for the Coordination of COREC, and Florence Chicho, National Secretary in charge of Economic Affairs. Again, the National Union of Higher Education Teachers also strongly denounces the kidnapping of trade unionists and university officials that occurred in a social context already judged very tense. The Executive Bureau of the Sinas demands their immediate and unconditional release. They also remind that the protection of the members of the educational community and the respect of fundamental rights are important to guarantee social stability, and calls on the authorities to act promptly and restore the security and freedom of these trade unionist officials.
And while Cameroonians are arrested for protesting and calling on the regime to respect the rights of the people, some key political actors such as Anisere Kane and Jekam Chameni are still in detention after they were arrested for instigating the population to protest. Civil society actors condemn what they describe as arbitrary arrest to suppress the people. More with Mala Glory.
The key political figures who have been fighting for change in Cameroon, Anisere Kane, President of Manidem, and Jekam Chamini, a leader of the UPC party, since weekend have been in detention. They were arrested in the context of the post-electoral process in Cameroon. According to civil society actors, these expose the weakness of the regime and also intimidate the opposition party.
But people who represent their political ideology that have nothing to do with what we are seeing, they were arrested. This is so because the Minister of Territorial Administration has previously made it known that there are people that will be arrested after campaigns will end. I tell you, this is not the state of law with such actions. It is a state of anarchy. And it would appear ministers in this country have resorted to respecting their party rules other than decisions, especially when political parties contrary to their opinions are concerned.
However, they call on the release of those arrested for a true democracy in Cameroon.
Cameroon is a democratic country, and that democracy should not stay on the paper. It should be active.
Here, it is that Africans should not take democracy and paint it on the wall. Why inside they are doing some. So we are calling on the power that be that they should release Anisere Kane and everybody who was concerned in the post-electoral arbitrary arrest in Cameroon.
Aside the arrest of these opposition leaders, many civilians were arrested in the post-electoral clashes that erupted over the weekend ahead of result, which was officially proclaimed this Monday, October 27, by the Constitutional Council.
And in the same vein, the governor of the Littoral region says all those arrested during the protests in Duala will be judged according to the law of the land. In a media release, Samuel Buea confirmed that 4 protesters were shot and some security forces were equally wounded during yesterday's protest, as Magican Gabriel tells us.
Several inhabitants in some localities of the Littoral region were on the street Sunday, October 26, 2025, as they respected calls from opposition candidate Issa Chiroma Bakari for them to protect their votes. The peaceful demonstration rather turned bloody as things became sour. 24 hours after the tension, the governor of the Littoral region, Samuel Diodone Iva Buea, in a media release said 4 civilians died as a result of the protest, while several others were wounded within the security forces after an attack on the Gendarmerie Brigade of Nkululun, the 2nd and 6th District Police Station in New Bell neighborhood. The governor of the Littoral region, however, condemned the act and has promised that an investigation has been launched over the incident.
And away from the elections that took place, members of the National Assembly paid a condolence visit to the family of a slain Member of Parliament, Abi Michael, who was killed in the Northwest region. During the visit, Deputy Speaker Honorable Mary Miboka, leading the delegation, condoled with the family and promised that justice will be served. We have more with Smajikan Gabriel.
It was a delegation of about 20 members of parliament who visited the family of late Honorable Abi Michael in their residence at Damas, Yaoundé. Their visit comes after the assassination of the MP on his way to Nkambe Center after the presidential elections. The delegation to the MP's house was headed by the Deputy Speaker at the National Assembly, who was sitting in for the Speaker, Right Honorable Kavayege Jibril.
It is a very difficult moment and a very tragic moment, which any other person to have a strong emotion, a strong feeling, and will be devastated. So at this moment, where the family is going through this devastation, we've come to bring hope. To, like the good president said, sometimes certain things happen and we cannot know how to explain them. So we only have to tell the family that the National Assembly family is with them.
In the course of the condolence visit, speeches from Honorable Njume Peter Ambang and Professor Fu Callistus Gentry, Minister of Mines, Industries and Technological Development, who doubles as an elite from the constituent of the late Honorable Abi Michael, told the family to be strong and always hold on to God.
It is a bitter pill that the family is swallowing because we don't know how to feed the gap. As you can see, the children there, only one of them that is having battery. Only one of them out of the 8. So it is a very big loss to the family. And we are just trusting God that God will give us the strength to withstand this painful moment that we're passing, that we're going through. It's not actually easy. We're trusting God for everything.
A symbolic financial assistance was handed to the family for the burial arrangements of the late Honorable Member of Parliament.
And may the soul of the slain Member of Parliament rest in peace. And now we take you news out of the country. Mali schools, including universities, are closed for 2 weeks due to a fuel shortage caused by a blockage imposed by the Al-Qaeda-backed militants. The blockage, announced in the early September, restricted fuel imports from neighboring countries, severely impacting Mali's fragile economy and leaving hundreds of fuel trucks stranded at the border. And away from Mali, Djibouti's parliament has voted to remove the presidential age limit, allowing 77-year-old President Ismail Omar Nguele to potentially seek re-election in April 2026. A roundup of all the stories with Sedi Chakutio.
Mali closed schools and universities nationwide, this due to a fuel scarcity caused by a blockade on fuel imports the Jadi militants imposed on the capital. According to the Education Minister Amadou Sai Savan, classes will be suspended for 2 weeks due to this disruption in fuel supplies that are affecting the movement of school staffs. Militants from the Al-Qaeda-backed Al-Islam World Muslim Group announced a ban on fuel imports from neighboring countries into Mali in early September, squeezing the landlocked country's fragile economy and leaving hundreds of fuel trucks stranded at the border. Mali, along with neighboring Burkina Faso and Niger, has battled an insurgency by armed groups including some allied with Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group, as well as local rebels. Following a military coup in all three nations in recent years, they have expelled French forces and turned to Russia's mercenary units for security assistance, which analysts say has made little difference. Elsewhere, the Bunchi's parliament unanimously decided on Sunday to lift the age limit for presidents of the country, which was fixed at 75 years by the constitution. This allows current President Ismail Omar, 77 years old, to rerun in next year's elections. No more age limit for the Bunchi's leader. Current President Ismail Omar will be able to run in the country's next presidential elections set for April 2026 if he wishes to do so. Up to now, the constitution of Djibouti limited the possibility of running for president to those of no more than 75 years.
And that foreign page done by Sirik Chakutio ends this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your keen attention. See you tomorrow, same time, God willing. Bye-bye for now. Stay safe.